Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. This is the Sky Media Ventures podcast. I'm your host, Nathania J. Carrasco, and this is a very, very special podcast we're doing today. We've never had more than two people on the show, and today we have Coach Randolph and his two athletic students, Eric and Max. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, and real quick, I need to give the audience a little bit of context on how we got you on the show. So Sky Media Ventures, we had a season 1, and our season 1 was a little rink-a-dink microphone and calling up friends and family and saying, hey, we're going to start a podcast. Can you come to some random place and do a podcast with me? There's about 4 people in this world who are real enough who said, you know what, Nate, even if you don't have the production, the cameras, the light, or the equipment, we're still going to show up because we have value to give to the audience. And that was Coach Randolph. Dude, thank you so much. You're such a real one.
Thank you.
You and a young lady that was on the show called Isadora França. On her show, the backdrop was tilted. So the entire show, there's a tilted backdrop, and it was just people who just wanted to come on. So, thank you guys for taking your Friday morning to come on the show. And what we're going to do is just tell the audience a little bit about your program and really be a little bit about your guys' lifestyle as athletes, as young athletes, as a 19-year-old. Maybe we're a little bit older, but we're still pursuing that athletic goal. So, Coach Randolph, can you just tell the audience a little bit about what you do with athletes and the program that you have currently?
Well, the program actually just turned out into something that was, by the fly. It's just there's a couple of guys, we were running, and then it came from college coaching. And it was just literally trying to just give people an opportunity to make them feel what I felt when I was running, to make them understand running is not just a set goal as far as competition. It's about a feeling. It's about life in a lot of different ways. It's a lot of adversity that you'll face. It's a lot of different things that running can wrap up in one thing and make you better. But it's also going to challenge you. So, when I did extreme speed and performance, I actually started out of way of when I was at University of Virginia coaching, and I started that way doing some soccer training, some speed for them, and
Wow.
indoor facility. So I had no clue that I was going to be in this phase this many years later, coming from the college piece of it. So it's more so about just being out there, being the best version of an athlete. If you want to be elite, if you want to be coming from a doctor's perspective, a lawyer's, or just someone that just wants to feel and look a part, but I don't allow it to be about a looking part. You're going to have to go through the adversity and the parts that make you better, and then you get the results. So no cosmetic bodies. It's about working bodies, being a better person, and getting a lot of perspective to help the world.
So it almost sounds like you'll take on somebody who's maybe a teenager, and is it possible that you'll take on an athlete who's maybe past 25, past 28, but they still have that urge to want to feel fast and want to feel fit?
Yeah, that's something that I enjoy, to be able to take someone that they just want to feel good. They want to be healthy from the inside out, and it starts with the mentality. And within the mentality, the physicality will follow, but it's about nourishment. It's about encouragement consistently, trying to put yourself in their shoes, no matter what the age is. So within some of my clients, I have a 68-year-old retired doctor. This morning I was supposed to have met with, and some other people that I've worked with.
You said 68-year-old?
68,
okay,
and he's retired, and he's just like, Willie, I can't get up this morning, but what's another day? But he comes out, and he's just had 2 hip replacements. And, I write the workouts according to where his mind and his body is at, and I think that's something that I'm humbled and honored to know enough within the science that goes within running and within just knowing what to do with the body and the mind to give the people their goals. So it doesn't matter about the age to me. It's about how do you take care of the human.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Some people are quitting athletics and quitting being healthy at age 30.
Yeah.
This guy is double that and then some, and he's still hitting you up and saying, "Hey, let's link up, let's get together, create a program for me. I want to feel healthy, I want to feel fast, and I want to feel sharp."
Yeah.
That's amazing. How did you and we have Eric and Max here. How did you get these students? I'm kind of curious about your guys' story on how you guys got connected with Coach Randolph. And I'm gonna have to give Eric first dibs. He's a little bit older. So Eric, how did you get hooked up with extreme speed?
He's seasoned, a little bit more seasoned.
Right. No, speaking about ages, I'm 37. I started just over 2 years ago with Coach Randolph. So I was about 34 when I started, but it actually goes back to COVID. There was a lot of things going on during that period. But if you recall, they shut down gyms. We couldn't work out, and I've always been pretty active. I wanted to stay healthy and young, and with all the gyms closed, I knew Coach Randolph through a friend, and he told me he was still doing some workouts outside. So I'd never done a track workout, and I remember meeting up with him and a bunch of other guys who were very hungry for lifting. If you still are working out, I should say, if you wanted to work out during COVID, you really wanted to do it. And so I went through a couple of these track workouts, and I was kind of blown away. I'd done various classes, workout style classes, and HIIT and these other things, but there was something about the track style workout, sprinting, and how much intensity you get to that really drew me in. And so
It feels good to run fast around a track.
It's incredible. And talking about feeling young and athletic and strong again, that kind of what pulled it out of me. And so anyhow, work picked up again after things started resuming post-COVID, and I started getting some free time off work. And so I reached out to him. I said, hey, I want to get back on the track. And I've been going now with him 3 times a week, and it's been incredible.
Dude,
yeah.
Congrats, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of distance and what kind of workouts do you like doing? Because I don't know if you're competing, but even if you're not competing, what kind of workouts do you like to do?
So it's a great question, and I am now competing. Coach
Nice.
Randolph has pushed me along with some of the younger guys. They keep me young. And I don't come from an athletic background. I didn't really play sports in high school or college. But I'd say, to answer your question, I really like the shorter distance stuff. I know Coach likes to push us sometimes into our uncomfortable zones, and that's how we grow. And so those distances might be the 100 and the 200. Sometimes we'll do some 400s, but the training varies. The training styles and the workouts, sometimes they're more speed oriented, and we're just focused on high speed, longer recovery periods. And then sometimes we'll do these tempo style workouts where it's a little bit longer distance with shorter breaks in between. But I enjoy them all. I like, obviously, like you said, running fast, pushing it to the limits. But I do enjoy the shorter distances.
Can I tell you one thing that I admire about you and your guys' program that I see at the track all the time that I can implement more? I love how you guys do a lot of strength sessions, especially like with the core, and the working out your body, making it hard, your muscles hard and stuff like that, because it's easy to run, but then it's all those other intricate activities that you could do that's really going to make you great.
It really does.
Like the forms, the strengthening the hips, the lower back, all that stuff. I love running all day. I could run 12 miles, run laps all around, but it's like, okay, is my flab, like, am I getting a little fat here in this area? Are my abs like not showing as much, So you could be a good runner, but are you taking care of the other areas? And that's what I like about extreme speed performances. You're not just helping them run fast, you're helping them get better in all areas of their athletics.
Thank you.
That's pretty cool.
And Eric is being modest. He actually is one of the top 25 guys in the world for his age group. And then he ran World's Masters earlier in February.
No way!
He actually took some challenges that his coach gave him, and he's actually one of the top people in his age group in the World Masters and 200 and some other events. So I, as a coach, am very proud of him. He would never say that, but for someone to come from where he came from, it's no more. It was such a joy to see him living in the moment and starting to learn how to own that moment, because it's something that, you can train people to look apart and to say, hey, go and run like 10 miles, 8 miles, or whatever today, and, maybe you'll get a goal, but to stick to a program as a person that's never gone through college athletics and went through all the different pushing and things that I've done to him, and then go and compete on a level at his age, that to me, again, is what we pride ourselves about as far as the mentality, and the support, because without Max, and some of the other athletes, I'm sure Eric would tell you, it'd be much harder to stay motivated, so we motivate each other. And, I'm very proud of Eric and where he's come and where he's doing things within where he's going to the next level with some things he's doing on YouTube and things like that. But
we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it's very exciting to see this guy talking about where he's come from in his journey, because it's what we should be about as people, helping each other with your gifts.
Sure. Where was Worlds for Masters?
Worlds Masters was actually in Gainesville this year, indoors. It was an indoor
Gainesville in Florida?
Yes.
Oh,
they have a really nice indoor
in our backyard.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was in our backyard, and you had people from all across the globe that came here, and that literally it was exciting and very fulfilling to see people not saying, I'm giving up to what society says when you get to a certain age. It's like you should die off, or you shouldn't push yourself anymore. There were people there all the way into their hundreds, pushing themselves to keep being the best version of themselves.
I love that.
So there was no excuses. And that even encouraged me. They encouraged me and had me sneak out there and try and run a couple of races. But that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. We did a podcast with Coach Randolph last year, and then I think like the very next track session, Coach was like, hey, let me run a 400 meter with you guys. And so we have on footage him running like a 400 or something like that.
They were there laughing at me, trust me.
That's when that was?
Yeah,
Okay,
that was they were laughing at me. They'd be like, Coach. And I'm like, come on, okay. And so it's like, it's accountability to each other as far as people, like support, accountability, like learning how to grow outside your comfort zones, but also having a why and a reason, and like some science that goes behind it to make sure people don't have that fear to hurt themselves. And that's where I'm very grateful for the years of college athletics that I was able to learn. And I love a lot of things I see that's going on now within getting people healthy, but there is a rhyme and a reason. There's a science to a lot of things.
Sure.
It's being neglected right now for the cosmetic piece of it.
Well, you said something in our first episode, and I was re-listening to it, that was really profound and important. During Hurricane Katrina, you had all these athletes that were foreign from outside the United States, but I think you called their parents and said, hey, even though we're going through Hurricane Katrina, I am going to make it my mission that these people graduate with their degree. Yes. So that's profound. That's beyond the track, and now you're thinking about their future. So you're definitely like a long-term oriented person for all the people you meet, dude.
That's foundation. Yeah. I think one of the things that this world is missing right now is a foundation that comes from their family. My mom was just amazing, and my grandfather and my grandmother, those were the key people that raised me, and that foundation on how to survive and how to take care of people, it just moved into my athletic world, and that's something I can't shake off because I respect their lives too much to act like they never really existed. And so with what I see going on nowadays, it's like it's a transactional type of a thing that most people are doing these days, which is all about what can you give me versus what this is supposed to be as far as us. Unless it's Christmas or Easter, that's when people think about how do we help each other. But right now, you do what works for me and I'll do what works for you, and then you go on and you don't exist anymore. So I make sure that I keep myself humble and remembering that my why is not about what I get, it's about what they get and what that turns into over the years of, next 100 years. If we all get to live 100 within this generation we're in right now, hey, you touch so many different lives. We're all a piece of a lot of people. And maybe that can continue on.
Yeah. And you know what, dude? What you just said about having things not be so transactional, but more oriented on what we could do in the future. You apply that in business, in like getting clients. Like I own a marketing firm. That you will get many clients, and they will be very happy because so many companies are very transactional.
Yes.
They're just trying to sell a service, sell a product, but they don't have a vision of the next quarter, of the next 4, 5, 6 months with that client. They're only thinking about that initial transaction,
Correct.
90% of them. And then the 10% that have that mindset, they're going to get the client. The client's going to have a great experience. They're going to refer them out, and they're going to stay longer because of that. Yeah. So I feel like your athletes, you've been with him for 2 years. Okay. So
I can attest to it. Yeah. He has a big cup to pour, and he pours to all of his athletes, and he makes sure that he really listens to your story, what you want out of it, and he tailors the workout. And he keeps it. He's not out there really marketing and trying to get numbers, transactions, just people. It's all through word of mouth in a way, and it's through the testaments and, like you said, making sure your clients are happy, thinking about the long term, and that's how he's been able to build sort of his own practice.
Yeah, like for me, because I'm young, so I'm 19, right? So,
sure.
Like Coach is almost like a second father to me, right? Just because of the lessons he instills in you. and just how he's there for you regardless. Because I've been him with him basically like 3 years, right?
Wow.
So since then, when I started, it's more. It goes further beyond than just the track, right? Like he'll text me at random times of the night, text me really early in the morning, just check up on me, how I'm doing, ask about things like school, family, how I'm feeling. So it's definitely a deeper connection. And that's another reason why I think he's such a good coach, because he takes care of your body, but he also takes care of your mind, right? And so, like word of mouth, like E said, like all the people that I do track with, I'll automatically recommend them to him because he's just such a like great person,
Sure.
right?
I'm gonna have to join you guys one day.
Yeah.
You know, for a
on
workout
over.
session.
Please.
You know, you're always welcome. It's never a question. It's just about some people get intimidated sometimes and they don't want to ask because they think that we are
Another level.
another level.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we're no different than anybody else out there moving. We just move with a certain level of intensity, focus, and you know, you only have so many hours within a day, and we try and capitalize every single hour we have when we're working together. And when we do it, it's funny because the guys are always like, we're talking still in the parking lot after we've gotten done
Yeah.
with workouts for at least another 30 or 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
you guys are
all right,
walking back to the car and you're like
Yeah.
just walking super slowly, just chatting up. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's a great
Yeah.
culture. You know?
And then in the parking lot, it's like, I love it because it's like they help me to put things back away, but we're just talking, and sometimes I'll just sit back and I'll just look at the interactions they're having as far as all the different age groups and the different conversations, and I'm just saying, wow, God, this is pretty cool that no one's thinking about like who and what your worth is and where you come from, none of that. They're just thinking about we have a connection that is like family, you know, and I think that we all want that, to have that continuous family connection or being grateful and living in the moment with each other when you are in any kind of organization. And when you lack that, you have to go all the way back to the top, you know, and I'm just grateful that, you know, my parents were able to help me to just share that where I don't have to think about how to make something that's not real. Sure. Their part and what they're doing is real. They care about each other, and that's exciting to see.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to ask Max, you reminded me of something. I know Eric, a little bit more seasoned. You're younger, but you've been with Coach for 3 years now. Tell us a little bit about what kind of distances do you like competing in since you started with him? You maybe were 16. I didn't start running until I was 19, so I'm with you, Eric.
Yep.
So, like, what distances do you like competing in? And did you have high school track experience?
Yeah. So
Very cool. Tell us a little bit about that.
for high school track, it was weird because it was started with COVID, so my season got cut short automatically, and then I ended up straining my quad, and that like affected my whole sophomore season. And then my junior season is when I started to take track more seriously, because I used to do track when I was little, but I used to do longer distances and I was doing AAU, so like it wasn't really much to it. I was just doing it because my mom put me in into it. So then I joined a travel team. I joined a travel team. It didn't work out too well. I don't know. They didn't like me. I don't know what for. I wasn't messing with it. It was a lot of drama in that team. I wasn't okay with it. So I ended up going over to Coach Willie because I got recommended by my uncle, and it was just like it just felt like family, right? It was good. But to answer your question, distances. I'm like a 200 guy. I like the 200.
Coach just keeps laughing.
I know.
I feel like he's gonna say something here.
Yeah, I don't. He makes me do the 400. It's okay. It's cool, but like, nah, it's
They're
done.
all
That's
gonna
over.
They're all gonna say 100, 200.
Yeah, but they know that I came from the 400 area of the world, the 400 hurdles and the 800 and stuff. So I like the strategic part of having more time to distribute your energy in the races such as the 400, the 400 hurdles. 200, yes. And he's talented in 200, don't get me wrong, but I always like to challenge them outside, because when you're becoming an Olympian, like some of our best athletes in the world on the track, they can do every event. It's just they're in the main events that they get more support or more money or whatever attention. I like to push people outside their zones, you know. And this guy,
you make it possible to like do every event. Like if you're a sprinter, you can do every sprint. If you're a distance runner, you can do every distance. Like he makes you versatile.
Sure.
And that's the type of training that you get. Like when you train, you do the strength things, right? You do strength training, but you're also doing a lot of tempo, but you're also doing a lot of sprint. So you're working on every single piece. Maybe like, you know, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You're hitting everything at least once a week.
Sure.
Right? And so like at a meet, you'll be able to run 5 events back to back, and you'll be perfectly fine.
Right.
It's calm.
Well, as you were saying that, like I'm imagining you running a 200, but then like maybe competing in the 400. And I've never seen a video of Usain Bolt run a 400. I've seen him run so many 100s, so many 200s. There's
a reason for that. Certain coaches and certain athletes don't put their coaches in the public eye of certain events and lets it strategic for certain reasons for what they're trying to build in their main marketable event. So you have a Usain Bolt. He has run some really fast 400s.
Yeah.
But they have not spoken about it because that is not his marketable area. That's not what he's known for.
Sure.
But if you put a stick, just like Lyles, you put a stick in his hand and say run a 4x4, I mean, a guy that's running 9.6s and 9.7s, they're going to be able to run if their coach is doing it right.
They'll go under 45.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
It's just about the mentality. It's about what the coaches prepared them to do outside their comfort zone. And I come from the Lances, that whole class of people. I'm very grateful to come from, the Arkansas coaches, the Kentucky coaches, the Mouse Holloway coaches, all those different coaches that we came from the ground of building overall athletes in every event because you had to cover so many track events.
Sure.
And you had to have your studs ready to go in the 4x1, the 400, the 4x4, the 100, the 200, and you had to do it in multiple days. And if your conditioning phase of it wasn't of that sort, you would have injuries and you would not have enough to score points. And when it's in college, your days don't matter unless you can perform on the days that matter. Districts, regionals, nationals. And that part of it, I've always, even when I was college coaching, it was like I was Ron Mann when I was at Louisville. He made sure that I understood, yeah, it's great you got all these licensable marks throughout the season, but when it comes down to it's time to make
conference, regionals,
and nationals. That's where it's at. If you can't do it there, have a good day, have a seat.
Yeah. Even when I competed in NCAA Division II, regionals was like, if you're not coming in, like there'll be like 400 runners.
Yeah.
You had to come in like top 4 to like make it to nationals. I'm like, wow.
Extremely
Cross country was extremely hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine like I don't know if have you guys ever been in a cross country race before? Probably not.
I haven't, no.
Imagine this. A lot of people like to run the 200. Imagine 300 people all racing the 200 all at the same time. And that's a cross-country race, but put 5 miles, and you got 300 young men from the ages of 18 to 25 who are skinny, fit, been practicing 40, 50, 60, 70 miles a week, and somebody, we put them all lined up, and we got our short shorts and our singlets on, and someone says, go. Dude, that is a stampede of just runners.
Energy rush.
Elbows are getting thrown.
Elbows, sharp elbows too.
Yeah. Sharp elbows. Cross country is crazy, but the track too. Indoor track is also a very a fun experience. You get the indoor lung sometimes if you go too hard.
Yes.
That's very the atmosphere is different. There's a lot of crowd and the loudness and the ambiance is different. And even the indoor feel of that track. When at the World Masters, we were just talking about that was an indoor track, and there was one of the first times I've ran on one of those, and it's different. You have to train a little bit different. You got to get used to it. And fortunately, he recommended, hey, you need to go try that first before you just try it for your first time and try to go all out. And I'm glad I did, because you will fall if you don't get used to that.
Yeah. Was it a bank?
It was a bank track.
Okay. Gotcha.
So those bank tracks, it's like you're on a roller coaster to a degree. It's like you start off at the top of a hill and then you go down and level it, and then you go back up and come back down, and then you're finishing like going downhill. That's if you're running 200.
Yeah.
And if you can't distribute your energy and your body in the right way, you definitely can almost fall. And some until even cross country, like if you're not going up the hill the right way or going down the hill the right way, if it's slippery or raining or whatever it is, your core has to be extremely strong, and your mindset to get through that uncomfortable feeling has got to understand how to trust the movements within your body. And cross country is very difficult because of that fact that you're doing it consistently up and down, and you're at the point of exhaustion, and then you're like, all right, I got 2 more miles, and then it's like, where's the finish line, and so I've always respected cross-country runners, and even with track and field, I think the biggest thing within just the sport of running, it's so different than any other sport that it's something that I will always respect. I don't care how much attention it doesn't get on TV. Track and field in running it's all you. It's you against the clock. It's your mind. It's your body. It's how bad do you want it and how much work have you put in? Because it's not going to hide.
Yeah.
It's
even the how bad do you want it? It gets trampled by the how much work did you put in.
Correct.
You know, I
Right.
think the preparing process is way more important than how bad you want it on race day, because you could want it bad, but if you didn't do those sit-ups,
It's
you didn't
gonna
do those
show up.
reps, you didn't do those 2 days where you're doing the strength training in the morning and then the workouts in the evening, all of it shows up
All of it.
on race day.
Yeah.
All of it does. And some of my classmates you know, athletes that I worked with in college, sometimes they'd be happy with me because of that, and sometimes they were not happy. They were like, Nate, we heard about this party on a Friday, and we had a track meet on a Saturday, and we seen a picture of you at the party, and now you came last in your heat in the 800
Now,
meters.
were you one of the first people to start with social media and the pictures and videos and stuff like that people could take of you if you were at a party, or what?
Probably not. Probably not. I
so-
started getting to social media and posting a little bit.
Okay.
After when we really should have gotten involved. You know.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
Lucky
Yeah.
you,
Right.
because now it's a whole nother story. Like a lot of students can lose a lot of opportunities just
Oh, yeah.
because of what you just said.
Oh yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation in regards to like, how do you carry yourself? Like your talk can be one thing, but what is your walk doing? What is your run doing when there's no one watching you?
We were talking about that on the first episode. What do you do when no one's looking at you, but maybe your dog's looking at you or something like that?
Yeah,
And it's how you treat the dog when no one's
How
looking.
do you treat people when no one's watching you? How do you really stay consistent within what you say you are versus what people perceive you as? You know, because what you really are, it's gonna stand on its own no matter who talks about you. There's always gonna be a hater or a negative person that's not gonna like you. That's just the world. But the majority of what people think of you, that's who you really are.
Yeah.
And so if they think of you as somebody who's going to work hard and is consistently putting in the work on the track or on the field or whatever it is, then they know that's what's going to show up when it's time to take that test, you know. But if you're that person that's, you know, out of 7 days out of the week, you know, only 3 of them you're really hitting, they don't know who and what's really going to show up at the same time when they're all saying, look, we've been doing the little things to make the big things happen. So I applaud people that get that concept, not just in running, but in life, and carry that into life because it makes a difference.
Yeah, I think we overestimate what we could do in the short term, and hopefully I'm saying that saying right.
Yeah,
But we overestimate what we could do in the short term, but in the long term we underestimate it. So it's all about putting those small habits in place, doing those little things over and over again, and it will eventually all come out. And in running and in track, it does come out.
Do you think that makes a difference even more so with just how society is going right now within these kids and the way that is being presented, that you can skip so many steps before you get to the results that you've earned, you know, versus it's been given? Say, for example, I call the microwave generation, where they don't want to put in the hard work. They don't want to wait for the meal to be cooked and all the little things to be put together. They just want to skip right over X, Y, and Z, and they want to get right to what they feel they deserve. And in that process, you grow within that, going A, B, C, D, E, F, G, not going from A to Z to P to. It seems to me, do you think that it's becoming more of a habitual, acceptable thing for people and for students to skip the steps to become great, not only as athletes, but as people? Do you think that's becoming something that, even as coaches, I'm asking you because as a coach, I'm constantly trying to challenge myself and adapt to what's going on within the world and within the people and their mindsets more now than ever, you know? But I want to know, as I'm getting older, is it just me that's old and seasoned and just think that it's just me?
No.
Or is it just the way that's going now that's saying it's acceptable?
I think what you're doing and the culture you're creating is, I think we have to teach old principles to new people. You know, and we have a whole wave of microwave, you know, learners out there, but they have to remember, before you harvest, you have to plant. But before you harvest, there's also a cultivating process. So it's plant, cultivate, harvest. Plant, cultivate, harvest. People plant, they start it, and they want to harvest the big, but they forget that the cultivating might take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I was 19, for instance, out of running. Let's get out of running. When I started business, I wanted to make this X amount of money a month. Took many years. And I think I just hit it like last year. It took like 9 years, but you know, it's because I planted and I wanted the harvest, but there's a cultivating. And I think with the question you just asked, we have to instill into younger people and people in general, because it's not just younger people that are having that microwave mentality. Now it's older people. Now it's a part of our culture. To now you'll see 40, 50, 60, 70-year-olds having that microwave thinking because it's a part of the culture. So I think we have to put our phones down and remember, how did Michael Jordan become great? How did Tiger Woods become great? How did that person that won at regionals, how did they become great? It's because they delayed their gratification. You know, they said no to the okay, no to the good, and said I want something great. I want something fantastic to happen. I want to win conference. You know, and I think the secret ingredient is that, you know, they put their faith in God, but that's another conversation. But I think if you could do all that, you know, you just give yourself a better opportunity to win. I think so. You know, so I think we do have a short-term mentality in our society nowadays, and I think that's why it's also really easy to get ahead in life. I truly believe in 2025, I believe it's easy to win because so many people are just geared not to stick it out the long term.
Right.
You
No
know,
consistency.
But do you think? I'm sorry.
There's a great Usain Bolt quote, and he says he trained for 4 years just to run 9 seconds, and people will give up after not seeing progress after 2 months. And it's exactly a nail on the head.
That's right on it.
That's something I'm struggling with. Like right now, because I'm 19, right? So I'm the younger generation. So like seeing everyone that's like your age, for example, y'all's age, like seeing how they are successful. Sometimes I like low-key diminish myself because I don't see myself as successful yet. But I'm also 19, right? So my life basically just started. So that's what it is. It's delayed gratification, and I think that's again like a really big struggle now. So it's just like you got to be willing to put in the work, but then put in the work for 5 years in order to see some type of return.
for sure.
Because you don't get it back in 2 weeks, right? Like if you go to the gym, you're not gonna get big in 2 weeks. It's not gonna work like that.
But you know what sucks about you could put in work for 5 years, and if you take 4 weeks off, you know,
it sets you back.
It sets
so
you back
far.
a little bit. So it's all about consistency too. You got to be consistent and not take too much time off. And I think my friend Brooks and I were talking about that yesterday. We were like, man, we've been running for 10 years, him a little bit longer. And I'm like, well, was there ever a time in that 10 years, did you ever like take like 3 months off or 4 months off? And we're like, no, we've never, I don't think we've never taken more than, I think I took 5 weeks off, and that was an injury. And that was a tough time in my life. I would be in the car driving, and I would see a regular person running, and I would get so jealous, and I'm like, God, why is my gift? Like, please, like, please restore my gift, you know, so I could run 10-minute mile pace.
You said something that's really a very good point. Like when you said people need to take more time out to pour back into the younger people.
Absolutely.
And the way that we were grown up, and I think that is key. You know, people I think have lost patience with them trying to pour back into someone like a Max or sharing their experience. And then I think it's on the other side as well, where the kids, depending on where they're coming from in their foundation of the family, they don't know how to sit long enough to take that teaching, those guidance, those things to say, hey, if you do this, this is going to get you this. And then this is when you, as you said there's a plant, there's a cultivation, and then there's the reward piece of it on the other end, and so to speak. And that part of it, it's such a lacking thing now. I think both sides need to figure out how do we bring this together, you know, and figure out how do we help our youth. Say, for example, I hate to say it, but certain other countries are doing a great job at cultivating their youth, like China and Japan and some other places with TikTok and different things like that, where we're using it completely opposite. We know that. But the patience level that we have to have, even more so, like my parents had for me, to pour into me. It was almost like a gift of life they wanted to give to you, if I can say that. It's like I could feel my grandparents and my mother wanted to pour their knowledge into me without saying that knowledge has to be 100% you. But here are some key nuggets to survive in life. Figure out which ones are good for you, but here are some things that you need to know. Patience, you know, commitment, dedication, patience, take some rest. Don't take too much, but make sure you're understanding to also have a good support system and know that every friend is not going to go along the way with you on your journey in life, and that's okay. Because that's a whole nother thing I think with the generation, with a lot of people now, is that you get to a certain point where people use the excuse of like, oh, this is the normal path of life. You just fall off with certain friends. No, it takes cultivation and work as well, as you get into certain phases of life. And I think that the whole part of that lacks because of what we're seeing in society, saying you only pay attention to when it's necessary. Death, Christmas, Easter, a high celebration of a wedding, or a party of some sort. You're only pouring and talking and dealing with people on a high level when it matters to you and it affects you. But we all affect each other.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, we all affect each other every single day, all day, in every single way. And I'm grateful when I think about, just even think about it now, about 20 years ago. And like we said, I'm not going back into Hurricane Katrina, but that's a big essence of why I'm even here now. It brought me through a lot of tests and trials of life, of realizing I wasn't that important as a head coach with a lot of athletes that were bringing revenue and different things to a university. I wasn't that important when it came down to what was giving them money in their pockets. I was only important for a couple seconds. But the foundation that I got from my grandparents and my mother is what allowed me to stand when everybody else said run the opposite way. And that's the thing that I enjoy seeing and hearing these young men and the people like put back into the world, that gives me a smile in the back of my head when I am too tired to smile.
Yeah.
Or if you have an injury or adversity hits you in the face, you know what I mean? So it's really humbling to even sit here and to listen to just their thoughts, because people don't want to take time to listen to people's thoughts.
Sure.
They only want to give time when it has a time that gives them a benefit. And that is not the way that, if we are talking about our religions or whatever, no religion is based on just self. No religion. So you can pick whatever religion you are, but all religions, to my understanding, is about family, units, trying to be together.
Sure.
And everything now in the world is being told to be apart and separate. And so it's a daily fight, I think, that we need to recognize and need to respect, that you're not going to be like anybody else except for yourself. And it needs to be taking ownership of your one of one and be the best version of being the one of one that you are. Because when you're gone, your pieces of your one of one, is going to be multiple people that are still walking on this earth. So I'm humbled to know that he's heard some things that has made a difference in him, the same things, because they're going to outlive me. It's just a reality. But we all live if we continue to do what we're talking about. Plant a seed, cultivate, and wait for the results.
Right. Coach, that's amazing you just said that. The most valuable currency in the world is not yin, it's not pounds, it's not dollars, it's not real estate, it's not stocks, but it's what you just said right there. It's the effect that we have on other human beings. Yeah. And obviously your effect is going to last. And thank you, Coach, for everything you do, brother.
And it's the same thing with you. Like, you don't have to take your time right now. You did not have to text me before I was getting ready to go to a whole other country and say, hey, Coach, come on in and we want to spend time with you. The biggest gift in life right now to me is time. Time is an amazing, amazing gift. And it's one that we take for granted too much, because we think we have a ton of it. And we don't have a ton of time. We have a short amount of time to do a lot of great, amazing things within that time. And if you really, truly are grateful for that time, you won't allow anyone to waste your time, because it's a gift that God gave to us in whatever religion you have. But it's a gift that when you wake up and you take that air and you get to, like, on the side of your bed, I don't care if you're in, the worst and the poorest of countries, or if you have no food or whatever it is, when you wake up and you get air, an opportunity to be better, you better take advantage of that.
Or act with urgency.
You better act with urgency, because there's no other way that you can be you without saying, I know this urgency of being in this time that I got right now is to say, I'm here. Right. You're here, And so being here requires being present and being within your purpose as well, to know that you're bigger and better than just what people dictate you to be. and make it happen.
And Max and Eric, that's why before we started the episode, the podcast, we said, hey, what this podcast is about is giving back to the world. Like, you guys obviously have done something worth sharing, and you have a coach that's given his time, to you guys to develop those gifts. So we appreciate you guys coming on the show and really sharing a little bit about what you guys, how Coach has affected you in such a positive light.
No, I'm happy to see more recognition for him, because he certainly works very hard, and he does put a lot of energy into all of his athletes. And if you couldn't already tell, I mean, he's got a lot of wisdom that he shares, and you can see it on the younger individuals. And after being with him for over years, I can see these kids develop with better foundations, with things like Max said outside of track. And it's so cool to see, running and fitness is one thing, but it's amazing to see the other lessons they learn through pushing themselves. Even with cross country, I'm sure you build other facets of your life as you get better at these different sports or whatever that transfer over to, say, into business or giving out to the community.
Eric, real quickly, we're gonna wrap up soon, but I want you to talk about the YouTube channel. What the YouTube channel? How are you guys gonna structure it? What kind of content can we expect?
So it's something that I've really appreciated with sprinting as someone who's outside of the track and field world, and I'm sure you could probably attest. There's something incredible about running itself. I mean, maybe not even just sprinting, but just running. It reveals a lot of your weaknesses, like you're saying, your core, your hips, and everything. And as I started sprinting, I really found that there's something unique here that I think it's a little bit underrated. It's a little bit understated how important this is. And I think a lot of people in the fitness world, or just generally as you get older, you think it's just for athletes, it's just for professionals. It's it's after you're 30, you can give up on that. You're too old for all that. Mm-hmm. And so I've kind of wanted to just kind of broadcast the message that, hey, you can still run, you can still learn how to run even if you're not a runner. You can learn how to sprint, which is normally looked at as a very high impact, risky exercise. And it can be if you do it incorrectly, you don't learn the right things. But I think if you take the time and learn and you approach cautiously, just like anything else, there's a lot of rewards in it. And so I think I talked with Coach Randolph. I just want to be able to get a little more attention to it from the outside world, just like I did and what I experienced as someone who didn't come from an athletic background, and learn how much just running itself can give back to you, feeling young again, feeling strong, feeling energetic, feeling a little bit like an athlete, even though I wouldn't call myself one.
Well, I'm so impressed with you, Eric. You didn't have the experience of competing in high school or college. I didn't have the high school experience, but how many people don't get that experience, but they still get to compete on an indoor bent track, which at Worlds, Masters, that's really, really cool. You normally don't hear that, where if someone's normally out of college, I mean, how many track meets do they even go back to? How many cross country meets do they go? I probably ran in 2 since graduating from college, and then I'm feeling kind of weird because we have teams, and you're the only one, but you know what? You're going to stand by your business, and I was going to compete with these people. But one of the coaches called me dad. Like, as I'm running, he's like, "Hey, dad," I was like, "Oh, geez, I can't believe I'm giving off dad vibes."
It's funny you said that, because Eric's smiling because he experienced the same thing. That was one of his anxieties that he had when he went to track meets and he was running against people like Max. They were all going to the same meets, and you're seeing the average is his age, and they're running very fast. And then you have Eric that's warming up and doing things just as fast and competitive as they are before the race. But because of what your fear is in your head, because of what society tells you, like, you're too old to be doing this, you shouldn't be doing this, and this is not your space, and you've already that part of it has to be, like you said, spoken into people to say, no, keep living, keep doing what makes you happy. Keep finding ways.
Like, my age group, when we see older people at the track meets, I think we like it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, like, especially if you're in the slower heat, you're like, oh, okay, thank God I got an older person like that. But like,
Think?
Yeah, sometimes. But it's just, I mean, I think it's cool. Like,
I agree with you.
Still older, still active. I like people who are active in general.
I agree with you so much, Max. There are 2 people, they're not here now, hopefully they're going to be on the show in the future, named Shawana White and Ornthal Striggles. They were my Coach Randolphs when I was 19, 20. Shawana was like 40, Ornthal was 45. both African American and they were distance runners. And there was a big, I guess, when they were trying to educate me, there's not too many African American distance runners, and these people were top tier distance runners. I mean, OJ, he's Coach OJ. He just ran like a 10-mile race the other day this year, and he's running it at like 5:50 pace. The guy's like almost 50. He's almost half a century, and he's running 5:50 pace for like 10 miles.
Wow.
Shawana, at age 39 or 38, is seconds away from almost qualifying for the marathon Olympic trials. Like, guys, sometimes when we get older, like in our 30s, early 40s, even 45, whatever, we can surprise ourselves based on the compound interest that we've invested over years, decades, but years, So that's why I think most people overestimate what they could do in the short term, and they underestimate what they can do in 6 months, in a year. And if they have that discipline, those habitudes, in 5 years from now, all four of us, we're going to be in a completely different place than what we even like maybe imagined.
I saw this thing on TikTok. I forgot who it was. I don't know. I'm sorry, but it was a black dude, and he said that he doesn't think. I think it was a big percentage of men can't run under a 13-second 100.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think you can. Like, I don't think that's that hard.
I've never tried that. I'm gonna have to try that.
But you got to think about it, Max. That's because the average person, like you said, when they get done being in high school or college,
no, but that's what he was talking about. He was talking about ex-athletes, though.
But that part of it, people don't realize, and they're starting to put out in public viewing or whatever version, they're saying if you sprint a certain amount of times a week, that increases your testosterone, your levels of like longevity, health. It does so many great things to your body, but a lot of people, like Eric was saying, you're afraid of hurting yourself because there's something that goes in your mind when you stop running that kind of tells you don't do that because you may hurt yourself, and you have to constantly fight that one, and you have to be with people that are telling like, no, you just warm up a little bit longer.
Sure.
No, you do this instead of this and you won't hurt yourself. But most people won't attempt to run 13 seconds and 100, let alone sprint, because they feel that they've passed that prime, or run a 5K because they feel they've passed that prime. The best thing is to keep going as opposed to stopping, because it's so hard to start back up, because now you're not just fighting the physical, you're fighting the mental.
Right.
And that mental is something else, man. It can be your biggest ally and your biggest enemy at the same time.
1,000%. 1,000%.
I think track is like, it gets physical up to a point, and at that point, it's just like mental. It's just you against yourself,
right?
Like, especially at like high level meets.
Oh yeah.
You think something wrong for a split second, you're done. Over.
Done.
I hear you. Especially these shorter distance, longer distance. It's you can only get you have to be physical, and then the mental comes in, and I think the mental is what helps you win the race at the end.
It is. Coming from a coach's perspective, it is the mental. I was always taught that track and field is 90% mental and 10% athleticism, even though it switches, at a certain point in the preseason. Yeah, it's 90%. You got to put that foundation at work in. And then the 10% is like keeping your mind like motivated, and you mix it up and down so it changes. Sure. But the coaches that are great coaches know to keep that mental animal strong and fed all the time. And they know when to do it, how to do it, and how not to do it. Even with distance runners, I say it's much harder for you guys because you're running around 25 laps or whatever number of distances you're doing. So when I see you guys out there running,
that could be one race,
bro.
That was one race in college, a 10K, on the track.
And what are you guys thinking of?
Yeah, like, what are you thinking?
We're always thinking like, are you
thoughts,
guys thinking of like, are you guys listening to like certain songs? You listen to like Led Zeppelin or something like that? What are you listening to in your head to keep you from saying, my body hurt and I just want to stop? What do you guys listen to?
Yeah, no.
What goes on in your head? I'm curious. We're curious.
It's just a lot of pain. It's a lot.
But you don't stop though. A sprinter, we stop if we feel like the slightest amount of pain in a certain area.
Yeah.
You guys got to keep going for another 10 or 12 laps.
You know what? My coach Ornthal Striggles, Coach OJ, he said we got to embrace the pain, especially as distance runners, because like it's not a 200, it's not a 400. I mean, it's a 20-minute sprinting event, or well, 5K in college, 18, 17, 16. So I think it goes back to conditioning. And I think the more you're conditioned, the less pain you'll feel. But then they'll get to a part in the race where you'll feel the pain. You have to be mentally strong. But those who ran the miles, did the core workout, did all the strengthening stuff, they're not feeling the pain. They feel the pain at a certain point of the race, where people who are undisciplined feel the pain at a shorter. They're feeling it after a mile, where the guys who've trained, they're feeling it after 3.5 miles. So that's a great question, by the way.
We were always curious. I mean, I've had a lot of distance runners like Donovan Brazier, like in Grant Fisher. All of them are from Michigan, so they're from my area.
Donovan Brazier?
Yeah.
Oh,
and I remember my actual college teammate was one of his coaches in high school. And he just came from a huge amount of injuries, and he just came back and he won the Olympic our American championship to go to Worlds here.
Right.
And he was gone for such a long period of time within a ton of injuries.
Sad race.
And now he's back, and you see this mental beast.
Right.
That's gone through that pain and stuff that you talked about, along within the training to get back to where he was at. And now, it's really cool to see how much you guys have to put in work in comparison to sprinters, because it's still the same thing, the mental piece of it, that makes a difference.
Coach, I am a Donovan Brazier fan, and I am hoping he makes it to the Olympics for the first time, because the last 2 trials he missed out. Yeah. But watching him win world championships and watching the 16-year-old hit that 142, but then Donovan winning, that was perfect. If the 16-year-old won, it would have been cool too. But
the perfect script was what it was there. The script of like coming back out of nowhere. That was the USA Championships recently. Okay. It's just like the return of the old 800 guard, and then you had another. But outside that, we'll keep talking because we're excited about our track and field stuff. But lo and behold, the story is mentality is everything when it comes to just life, track and field, and just what we do on a daily basis. It's just your support system and what we do and how we do it and the consistency in it.
Well, Coach, I'm gonna leave it off on that note. That was fantastic, guys. Thank you so much. The Extreme Sports Performance crew coming out to the Sky Media Ventures podcast. Once again, we do these videos to give back to the world, because you guys have done something amazing, and there's other people who want to run, who want to build businesses, who want to chase their dreams or visions or realities. They just don't know where to start. So sometimes they have to be affected by maybe a platform, many different individuals, and then they could help convert their liquid thoughts into solid reality. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to episode 5. We hope to have you guys here on the show again. Don't ever forget, sky's the limit. Take care. Guys, say bye.
See y'all. Thank you for having us.